Amy Bach walked into federal court in a lime green sweatshirt, her feet shackled, her hair pulled back. She cried. She apologized for the first time. And then the judge sentenced her to 500 months in prison for stealing money that was supposed to feed hungry children. 41 and a half years. Because she stole from hungry children during a pandemic. And she did it for 2 full years while daring anyone to stop her. During the darkest months of COVID-19, when schools were closed and millions of low-income kids had lost access to the free lunches they depended on, the United States government opened an emergency food program. The idea was simple: get food to children who need it, quickly, wherever they are. Amy Bach saw that program and saw something else entirely: a cash machine. And she intended to drain it. To understand how this fraud worked, you need to understand how the Federal Child Nutrition Program operates. When COVID shut schools down in March 2020, the USDA approved emergency waivers. They allowed meals to be served at off-site locations, restaurants, community centers, catering operations, anywhere that could get food to children quickly. The system worked through sponsors. A nonprofit sponsor would recruit and oversee local meal sites. Those sites would serve meals, submit documentation, and the sponsor would collect the paperwork and submit reimbursement requests to the state. In Minnesota, that money flowed through the Department of Education and ultimately came from federal USDA funds. It was a system built entirely on trust, that the meal sites were real, that the children were real, that the meals were real. Amy Bach understood that trust was the only thing standing between her and an unlimited supply of federal money, and she set about dismantling it systematically. Bach founded Feeding Our Future in 2016. Before the pandemic, it disbursed about $3 million a year in federal nutrition funds. It was a small nonprofit, doing paperwork for a handful of meal programs. Then COVID hit. The oversight requirements were loosened. The verification systems were relaxed. The government desperately needed food to reach children fast. Feeding Our Future's funding went from $3 million in 2019 to nearly $200 million in 2021. That explosion should have triggered every alarm in the Minnesota Department of Education. And it did. State employees privately raised concerns as early as fall 2020 that there were not enough children in Minnesota to justify the reimbursement claims flowing through Feeding Our Future. Employees described meal operations that appeared suspicious or implausible. At least one told investigators that supervisors repeatedly stopped her from pursuing more aggressive oversight and discouraged staff from visiting sites that appeared questionable. The concerns went up the chain, and then they went nowhere, and the money kept flowing. Here's what Bach was actually doing with it. She recruited individuals and businesses across Minnesota, restaurants, catering companies, shell companies, to open fake meal sites under Feeding Our Future's sponsorship. These sites claimed to be serving thousands of meals per day to children in need, within days or weeks of being formed. A new organization set up last Tuesday, claiming to feed 5,000 children a day by Friday. The documentation was fabricated from top to bottom. Fake invoices, forged signatures, manipulated spreadsheets, invented meal counts, and the children's names on the attendance rosters? Generated by a random name generator website. Real site. Real random names. Fake children who never existed, listed as recipients of meals that were never made. In total, Feeding Our Future and its network submitted claims for roughly $600 million in federal reimbursements. The government paid out between $250 million and $400 million before anyone shut it down, all justified by claims of serving 125 million meals to children across Minnesota. The entire population of Minnesota is about 5.5 million people. They claim to have served more than 20 meals for every single person in the state. Bach's own right-hand man, Feeding Our Future employee, Hadith Ahmed, the first insider to testify against her, described what the organization had become. He testified that Feeding Our Future was not known as a non-profit helping kids. It was known as a booming bank. There was money everywhere, no, he said. Feeding Our Future was the place to go. Everyone wanted to get involved. He personally accepted kickbacks to approve fake invoices and inflated meal counts. It was standard practice. The entire operation had become, in his words, crazy. So where did the money go? Everywhere. Fast. The stolen funds went into real estate, luxury cars, and international travel. One co-conspirator purchased a hotel in East Africa. Others bought properties across the United States. Money moved through shell companies to bank accounts in Kenya and Ethiopia, and Feeding Our Future collected $18 million in administrative fees alone, just for being the conduit through which all of this fraudulent money flowed. When the Minnesota Department of Education finally questioned the explosion in claims and demanded more documentation, Bach did something extraordinary. She sued them. Number 17, meatloaf with tomato glaze and green beans. She filed a lawsuit against the state agency claiming discrimination and arguing her organization was being targeted unfairly. A court temporarily blocked the state from withholding payments. The money kept flowing while Bach's lawyers fought in court to keep the tap open. It was not until January 20th, 2022, nearly 2 years after the fraud began, that FBI, IRS, and U.S. Postal Inspection Service agents arrived at 26 locations across Minnesota simultaneously at dawn, executing search warrants and shutting it down. The investigation that followed was one of the largest fraud prosecutions in Minnesota history. 79 defendants were charged. 66 were convicted. At trial, Bach insisted she had tried to stop the fraud, that she had been betrayed by the people she trusted, that she was a do-gooder who had lost control of an organization that grew too fast. The jury did not believe her. She was convicted on 7 counts, including wire fraud and federal programs bribery. At sentencing, Bach told the court, "I understand I failed. I failed the public, my family, everyone." U.S. District Judge Nancy Brazel was unmoved. "This was a vortex of fraud," the judge told her. "And you were at the epicenter." Her attorney had asked for 3 years. Prosecutors asked for 50 years. The judge gave her 41.5 years and ordered her to repay $243 million to the federal government. The former acting U.S. attorney said afterward, "I don't take anything Amy Bach says at face value." He had watched her sue the state to keep the money flowing, and then claim in court she had been trying to stop it. He was not buying the tears. 125 million meals. That is what Feeding Our Future claimed to have served to hungry children during a pandemic. None of those meals were served. The children were not real. The names were generated by a website. The invoices were fabricated. The federal government designed an emergency program to make sure no child went hungry during a national crisis. Amy Bach looked at that program, looked at those children, and decided it was a business opportunity. 41.5 years. Thanks for watching. If you want more stories like this one, about criminals who exploited the systems meant to protect people, make sure you subscribe, because the next one is even more unbelievable than this.